is the second fastest growing economy in the G7, Mr. Speaker.
You can't be the second fastest growing when you are shrinking, as the Minister of Finance might appreciate and relate to, Mr. Speaker.
On the last day of Parliament before summer break, Mark Carney's cabinet was actually caught trying to disagree with its own agencies on the government's performance. The Conservatives were not about to let them get away with that, as well as letting the opportunity slip to comment on Francois Philippe Champagne's shrinking stature as a minister. Let's take a look.
As the Prime Minister ends his third session, I ask you a question. Are your groceries, your gas, your mortgage payments more affordable than they were a year ago? Are your streets more safe, or are they more riddled with crime? Aside from his endless announcements, excuses, and promises, this Prime Minister has doubled the deficit, increased housing costs, home building is actually down, gas, groceries, and mortgage payments nearing record highs. So will the Prime Minister put aside the illusions and stand up in this House of Commons now and defend his disastrous results?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we are at the end of a session, and I wish the Leader of the Opposition, his colleagues, and obviously his family restful summer, as I wish to all my colleagues on this side of the House. I do want to point out, Mr. Speaker, that we are finishing one of the most productive legislative sessions in recent history. 21 bills have become law through this chamber, the largest criminal justice reform passed in the history of Canada. Liberals are the law and order party now, and we have put in place a series of measures to make life easier and more affordable for Canadians. We're not stopping there. We're going to continue the work. We're going to build Canada strong, and we're going to make this country proud.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
No, we do not plan a restful summer. We plan all summer long to fight against the Liberal recession, Liberal inflation, the rising Liberal cost of living, and the rising Liberal crime crisis in our streets. Take, for example, investment. This Liberal Prime Minister promised he would increase it. He's delivered 5 consecutive quarters of declining investment. This is the only G7 country who has done that. One of the reasons why our country is in a recession that means paychecks down and the cost of living up. So will the Canadian people deserve accountability and results? Will the Prime Minister stand and deliver both now?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Come to the end of the session, you would expect a leader of the opposition to be a bit more cheerful, Mr. Speaker, because in fact they are good news, Mr. Speaker. If he wants to look at results, Canada is the second fastest growing economy in the G7, Mr. Speaker. The G7, Mr. Speaker. We have seen investment in machinery and equipment is up, Mr. Speaker. We have seen that business investment in intellectual property is up, Mr. Speaker. Instead of complaining, you should celebrate our workers, our industry, and Canada. Let's build Canada strong together, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. So, Champagne is trying to refute Pierre's claim about the fact that we've had 5 straight quarters where business investment has actually gone down. And he's trying to say that, oh, well, you know, we've had investment in machinery is up and investment in intellectual property is up. So, you know, stop complaining. Stop complaining. Really. Well, what do you have to say about your own government agency putting out the actual stats about this? Are they complaining? This is from the latest StatsCan report, folks. Lower business investment in engineering structures more than offsets increased spending on other capital assets. Business capital investment fell 0.7% in the first quarter of 2026, the 5th consecutive quarterly decline. A 4.6% decline in engineering structures was moderated by increased spending on machinery and equipment, mineral exploration and evaluation, non-residential buildings, and software. So Champagne is trying to point to the engineering structures and software as, oh, that's the reason to actually be optimistic about this stuff. But you can't actually do that when the net investment is actually down. And that's a concerning trend. That means for a year and a quarter straight, we have had business investment continually decreasing in this country. And when investment continually decreases in the country over a long period of time, as a trend that this has become, you get less businesses, less jobs, less money, less equipment, and less income for the average Canadian. Is it any wonder that unemployment is becoming a problem in this country? Is it any wonder that people are visiting food banks more than ever before? So this is what the Liberals are going to try to do. They're going to try and take one or two stats, cherry pick them out, and say, oh, no, everything's great. Meanwhile, their own government agency is telling us how bad things are actually getting.
That's not just an illusion, that's a hallucination. The government's own statistical agency says the economy is shrinking. Yes. It shrunk this quarter, and it shrunk the quarter before that. In fact, it shrunk 3 out of the last 4 quarters. You can't be the second fastest growing when you are shrinking, as the Minister of Finance might appreciate and relate to, Mr. Speaker. So the question is for the Prime Minister, who's delivered the only recession in the G7 with consequences of higher costs for Canadians. Will he stand and defend the results instead of the...
That's it. Like, how do you rebut that? You claim to have the second fastest growing economy in the G7. How is that possible when your economy is shrinking? The only way that that would be possible is if one economy was actually growing and your economy was shrinking the least amount of the other 5 G7 countries. That's the only way that that would be possible. But that's not really is what's happening, is it? Because we have Canada being the only country who is in this position of having a recession. Now, is it going to change next quarter? We'll see. But we need to see a different trend here. Even if the economy goes up by, say, 0.1% in the next quarter, that's a problem. It's a problem because the trend, and that would have been now for 1 year, the trend would have been that our economy is flatlined. It's either shrinking overall or it's not really moving at all. There's going to be a bottom to this economy. The question is where is it? Are we there? I don't know. But it's going to be interesting to see how the next StatsCan reports over the next couple of quarters leading to the end of this calendar year actually reveals what is happening in the economy out there. And I love Pierre's little jab at Champagne at the end on his height. I'm not going to comment on it because, you know, Champagne can't do anything about his height, but it is interesting when Pierre knocks him down a peg or two, so to speak.
Mr. Speaker, what an insult to the hard-working tradespeople and building unions across this country who've been standing with this government, fighting to build Canada strong, fighting to train their members and make sure more young people have great skilled jobs that pay fabulous wages, something I thought those guys were for, and vote against every single time. What an insult to the hard-working entrepreneurs across this country who have banded together to build up this country. Maybe they should stop talking down Canada.
You gotta love the Liberal playbook here. Every single time you criticize them, they say, "How dare you? How dare you talk down Canada? What an insult to the people that are hardworking across this country." You know what an insult is, Patty Haidu? When you stand up with your over $300,000 a year salary and you try to tell Canadians they haven't had it so good. It's an insult to the people that are actually working a full-time job and still have to go to the food bank because of how expensive things are in Canada. It's an insult when you as a Liberal government continually avoid accountability by trying to turn it around and say, you know what, you're actually wrong for criticizing us. That's the issue. And this is what the far left does on every single issue. On every contentious matter that they actually bring forward, doesn't matter what arena it's in, if you criticize them, they will shame you, they will insult you, they will cancel you, and they will try to shout you down, tell you to shut up, and let the liberal elites do what they want. That's been the playbook for the last 11 years. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Conservatives are not going to sit down and shut up. Conservatives are not just going to sit by and let you tell us that we shouldn't be talking down Canada. Canada has some serious problems, and it's up to Conservatives to actually point them out and try to fix them, because it's obvious the Liberal government has no plan on doing that. So get used to it, because Conservatives are going to be a lot louder from here on out.
Mr. Speaker, instead of being accountable for Liberal inflation and the Liberal recession, the Prime Minister is now making his 12th announcement on housing. This after he led to a 6% reduction in home building, and his own housing agency expects that it will fall another 18%. Finally, this Prime Minister has given us the biggest increases in costs in housing anywhere in the G7. So instead of another illusion, another announcement, will he stand and take accountability for the costly failures that he's denied Canadians homeowners?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the member mentions housing, and what I want to say is congratulations to the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities, who will be announcing today in British Columbia with the Prime Minister an historic agreement with the Government of British Columbia that follows agreements with provinces across this country. We are going to keep building homes. Rents are coming down, Mr. Speaker. Housing's become more affordable. We've taken the GST off homes for first-time home buyers and under $1 million. Mr. Speaker, we're just getting started. We are going to have a revolution in housing.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
They already had a revolution. This Liberal government doubled housing costs, and to solve the problem, this Liberal Prime Minister picked the Mayor of Vancouver, who made that city the most expensive housing market in the world. Since promising to double home building, this Prime Minister has delivered a 6% reduction in construction, and his own housing agency expects it will drop another 18%. So instead of another promise or illusion, will he do his job, stand in this House, and be accountable for his failures?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to start by thanking all our partners in housing, municipalities, provinces, Indigenous communities, planners, builders, everybody that is working together, because the trends are indeed moving in the right direction. Housing starts are up. Housing sales are up, and rents are down. Mr. Speaker, things are moving in the right direction, thanks to everybody that's working hard together for Canada.
Bravo. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This government is at war with its own statistical agencies. It's incredible. CMHC, the Liberal, no, it's their housing agency that says construction is down by 6%, Mr. Speaker. Their housing agency says it will drop another 18%. Instead of another photo op, another announcement, another dazzling speech, will the Prime Minister go over to the CMHC and find out how it is that he is pulling back on home building by another 18%.
This is the level of gaslighting that is going on from the Liberal government, folks. And I know many of you are not surprised, but it's just crazy to see in action. Now, just to prove that Pierre is actually pulling proper numbers and he is actually telling the truth, and the government is, well, I can say it here because I'm not on the floor of the House of Commons, lying their keisters off. This is the actual page from the CMHC, the government's own agency, that says this. Dated June 15th. So this came out this week, folks. The 6-month trend in housing starts was virtually flat in May, with a slight increase of 0.5% to 258,010 units. That's what the Liberals are pointing to. Well, you know, there was a bit of an increase in 0.5%. So that's what they're relying on, saying that housing starts are up. So it goes on to say, the trend measure is a 6-month moving average of the seasonally adjusted annual rate of total housing starts for all areas in Canada. But we can't stop reading. Actual monthly housing starts were down 5.2% year over year in centers with a population of 10,000 or more, with 22,633 units recorded in May compared to 23,879 units in May of 2025, so a year earlier. The year-to-date total was 93,644 units, up 3% from the same period in 2025, driven by higher starts in British Columbia and Ontario, outweighing year-over-year decreases in the prairies. However, we keep reading. The total monthly SAAR of housing starts for all areas in Canada, decreased 6% in May, 261,377 units, compared to April, 278,380 units. This is what Pierre is referring to. Remember Mark Carney saying, we're going to be building over 500,000 homes. Interestingly enough, that's exactly what Chrystia Freeland said and exactly what Justin Trudeau said. And they haven't moved the needle at all. At all. So they're trying to completely get away from this report that the CMHC put out and tell everyone, oh, look, we're doing amazing. Everybody stand up and clap for us. Meanwhile, the government's own agency completely refutes their talking points, just as StatsCan refutes their talking points when it comes to investment in this country. So this is going to be fascinating to see what happens over the next 6 months if these trends continue on GDP falling, on unemployment, on investment or lack thereof, and of housing starts. Now, the one thing that the Liberals are going to try to, jump up and down and pat themselves on the back with is housing completions. They're going to say, look at how many houses we've completed. Well, they're actually not the ones that are actually building them. It's the companies and the developers that are building them. And a lot of these houses were started years ago. And in some cases, they're condo buildings. They were started, 4 or 5 years ago. Well, what happened 4 or 5 years ago? We've talked about this. We've talked about this with our interview with Scott Aitchison, which you'll be able to see at the end of this video, who's the Shadow Minister for Housing for the Conservative Party. And what happened is everything was paused in COVID. Remember that? Nothing was getting built. No one was able to really work basically anywhere. And then what happened in 2021 and 2022, all of these housing starts restarted and all the construction restarted. And all of the developers who were already behind by a year, they needed to try and accelerate things. So all of those condos and apartment buildings and houses and everything that they started that long ago, a lot of them are coming to completion now. So what the Liberals will try and do is say, well, because of our government, look at all these houses that are actually being completed. Many of them aren't houses. Many of them are apartment buildings. Many of them are condos. And they're going to be trying to take credit for something that they had nothing to do with, that started 3 to 4 years before this government even took power. So that's what's happening. Now, the other thing that Pierre keeps saying is, will the Prime Minister rise in the House and defend his government? He won't rise and he won't defend. Well, there's a reason for that. And the reason is once again, Mark Carney is not in question period. Where's Mark Carney? He's at the World Cup. This is Mark Carney and his wife, Diana Fox, and they're at the World Cup, and he's dressed in one of the jerseys that Team Canada is actually wearing. Now, shout out to Team Canada. They had an amazing 6-0 victory yesterday against Qatar, so that was amazing to see. But this is Mark Carney. Now, why is Mark Carney there? Well, the interesting thing is that, sure, you could say he's the Prime Minister, and this is the World Cup, and, he should be there. But the other argument I would have is this. Listen, I'm the Prime Minister, and I understand we're hosting the World Cup right now. But I don't think it's appropriate for me to go to an event as expensive as this. An event where some of the cheapest tickets are $1,100 each. That's some of the cheapest tickets you can get. And Canadians are facing an affordability crisis. I don't think it would be right for Canadians to see me having fun, jumping up and down, and being at the World Cup. Well over 2 million Canadians are attending food banks. That wouldn't be right. And as the Prime Minister, I commit that I'm not going to be seen, rightly or wrongly, at some of these events. Maybe you go for the opening ceremonies, but you get back to Parliament and you continue working on an affordability crisis that, your policies helped create, because you've been advising Justin Trudeau since 2020. And it's even more concerning when you see some of these prices that are actually going on at the World Cup. And you got to wonder, is Mark Carney paying for this, or is the Canadian taxpayer? So this is one of the screenshots of one of the menus that was actually taken at the World Cup. Look at these prices, folks. Specialty cocktails, $25. Premium beer, $24.25. That's for a 740 milliliter beer. 473 milliliter premium beer is $18.25. Water, $7. Non-alcoholic beer, $9. Chips, fricking chips, folks, $7. Italian trio deli sandwich with chips, $22.50. And the National Post had put out an article on this, and apparently 2 hot dogs and 2 soft drinks cost $57. And this is where the Prime Minister is hanging out, instead of being in Parliament, where he should be doing his job, where he's only been about 30% of the time that he's actually been Prime Minister. He's missed question period over 70% of the time. So, as Pierre says, they're at war with their own agencies. They don't like listening to their data because it doesn't make them look very good. They gaslight everybody who is trying to actually criticize them and say, well, you're talking down Canada. If you're saying anything negative about our government, you're not a patriot, you're not a real Canadian, and you're talking down this country. And instead of actually fixing it, we'd rather go to the World Cup and pay $25 for a glass of wine and $57 for a couple of hot dogs and some soft drinks. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Carney, your fiscally responsible Prime Minister of Canada.